Hello again, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this fourth session in our Exploring Agritourism for Your Farm webinar series. I'm Megan Leffew, an Extension Specialist with the Center for Profitable Agriculture. Today we have joining us front and center Kacey Troup, who's a business consultant for agritourism and several other topic areas with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture in the Business Development Division. We're going to be talking about risk assessment and management for your farm and sharing resources from the state and other places, other groups that can provide some technical assistance, funding, marketing opportunities for your agritourism operations. So we have a full session. We'll remind you again, we'll keep the video and microphones turned off. Please use that chat liberally to let us know if you have questions, comments, or if there's any issues with the audio or with the slides or anything like that. I really appreciate you all being here. Hopefully you've got something warm to drink today. It's a little chillier than it has been. But we will rock right into the risk assessment portion, and then we'll round out the day with a discussion of the resources that are available. And Kacey, feel free to jump in on any of this risk information as we go through that. You've got a lot of experience to weigh in and would love for you to share as we go through. I'm going to lead with disclaimers once again, just to make sure that we're clear that this information is for educational purposes only and does not constitute legal or medical advice. And we are going to share some additional resources, some sources of insurance that we're aware of, for example, and we're sharing that for information for you to make decisions about. We don't endorse any particular product or service provider for those mentioned. We're just providing that for your information. So as we think about risk assessment and management, we're going to give just a little bit of an overview of what risk is, what risk assessment is, and how to go about doing that a little bit, and risk management. Then we'll dive a little bit into some specific agritourism risks and management strategies. And throughout the presentation, we'll provide some resources to help you dig a little deeper and implement strategies that are appropriate for your risks and your operation. So to help us get in kind of the right mindset, I'd like to know how you define risk. And if you would put some things into the chat, how do you define what risk is or a risk? All right. Taking a chance. Right. A possible problem. Someone being hurt or us being sued. Yes, that's a big one we think about. Exposure to legal ramification. Anything which can damage or injure on a farm. Risk is taking on potential liability. Yes, indeed. Employees, customers, animals, those definitely can introduce risk. Safety is a huge one on the farm. Absolutely. An endeavor with unknown outcome. Yes, agritourism life is a risk, right? Any sort of business in itself is a risk. Not knowing the outcome of a decision. Yes, I often say, I wish I had a crystal ball, or I think I do, and we don't. It's something that you cannot account for, the surprise. Okay, there will always be some surprises. We're going to talk about how you can try to account for things and try to be proactive to manage risks before they happen. But you can bet there will always be a surprise. I continue to be surprised in everyday life. Thank you for those insights, and I think you are right on. The definition that we're going to use here in the presentation is that risk is the possibility of loss or injury. Some synonyms, not synonyms are danger, hazard, pitfall, or threats. So you all were right on with your definition of risk. And risk can be scary because it is there are a lot of unknowns associated with it, and we don't have control over everything for those of us who like everything to be in a nice little box. Just by being an entrepreneur, you are you are some level of a risk taker. Certainly, if you're a farmer, you're some level of a risk taker. And agritourism is in that same category. So when we talk about risk assessment and risk management, we're talking about undergoing a process to try to identify some hazards that may be present or come about. We want to assess the likelihood or the probability that those risks would occur. And if they do occur, then the severity of the potential consequences or impact. So if something happens, if we're thinking about a particular risk, how likely is that really to happen? And if it does, how bad might it get? Then we would think about developing specific plans and strategies to manage those risks. And then we would implement those risk management strategies, track the effectiveness and how that worked, and evaluate and improve our risk management plans. So we've talked a lot about planning, business planning, market planning, certainly planning, taking some time to evaluate and put some steps into action to manage our risk is important. So it is important because we are able to identify some possible risks and understand the likelihood and severity of the consequences if those happen. And information is power. Then we're able to take steps to either avoid those risks or reduce the risk, or reduce the severity of the consequences so that our business can live another day, right? It won't be a good day if something bad happens, but we want to make sure that we can get through that in good measure and continue on with our business. This saves you time and a whole lot of stress as well. If you can avoid some risks and if you have plans in place for being able to take care of those. Careful risk management, risk assessment and manage will improve your financial stability because you will reduce the huge financial hits that can take place, and have a plan in place to be able to weather some financial hits as well. Successfully assessing and manage your risk can also protect your reputation. If and when something happens on your farm, maybe a customer is injured or there's a medical episode, for instance, how you handle that situation in the moment, and what you've done before to prevent a situation, for example, will help you weather that storm with that particular customer and with the media and public in general. So tell me now in the chat, if you would, what risks are you most concerned about with agritourism? When you think of your operation that you have or planning to have, what are your worst fears of things that could happen? A customer being injured, absolutely. Someone suing us, yes. Whether or not there's anything justifiable to sue about, sure, for multiple reasons. Someone getting injured or property being damaged. Absolutely. We do not want anyone to get hurt. Losing our century farm. Absolutely. We don't want to lose your farm. Certainly those are some of the big one. Animal harm. Absolutely. We don't want our animals getting hurt and we don't want our animals hurting anybody else. Right. When we think of um absolutely, thanks. Keep putting those in there. Theft or shoplifting, losing what I've worked so hard, and my animals and their health. Absolutely. Uh-huh. Very good. When we think about risk, a lot of time we think of legal risk, and some of those that you mentioned um, are fall into this case. Um, Legal risks involves following laws and regulations, right? If making sure that you are on course and meeting the regulatory needs, or having an injury to a customer or employee. So something that would cause a lawsuit or a fine or a stop injunction to where you can't operate your business. We don't want any of those things to happen. Human resources risk, and some of these others are very important that we've seen over time working with operations, but may not be thought of as much. There are human resources risks, and unfortunately, Kacey, we've worked with folks to where there's been a disagreement in a family between siblings or between parents and children or between spouses and there's a divorce. We've worked with operations where there's a death of a key person within the business, or so, and some folks now are very sick, and how that impacts the operation. Employee turnover can also be a risk if there's a key employee that has a lot of information, who's done a really important job on the farm, and maybe information hasn't been transferred back to the next person to do that, or to the ownership, or if an employee leaves and starts saying negative things on social media or sharing inside information. So human resources is a risk. Business interruption. This might include a natural disaster. We've had operations that were hit with the flooding from the hurricane, operations who've had a fire, or an operation who had a tornado go through it. There might be road construction that limits people's ability to get there. We've even had a global pandemic, okay, and supply chain issues associated with that, not being able to get the supplies and that you need in order to operate your business. In agriculture, production risk is always a possibility. There might be a contamination of something getting sprayed that shouldn't have been sprayed on a certain crop. That could be at your farm, or somebody else may have sprayed. That has happened. We've had product spoilage, where this year there was a really wet winter and spring, so that really hurt some crops like tulips and sunflowers, made that really challenging. That interrupted then the visitors coming to the farm for those product. Processing consistency can also be a production issue. Financial risk is having the capital or the availability of credit to, get everything built and marketed and ready for guests, and to operate and pay all your bills, including your employees, or to pay for any damage or loss of personal property. This also can include having some financial reserves in case of an emergency, or to pay an insurance deductible, for example. And marketing, the last example here in the chat, is gaining a bad reputation for not handling unforeseen events properly. right? We also have marketing risk, and the risk is we build it and they don't come. The customers don't come, or they don't come often enough, or don't spend enough money. So marketing risk is the ability to attract customers and sell your product, services, and experiences at a profitable price. And always the risk of competition coming in. And that can be other agritourism farms, but it could also be other tourism, recreation, entertainment type activities. Your competition may be the zoo or the skating rink or the movie theater or the aquarium. Or the state park even. So depending upon your type of business. So we think a lot about legal risk, but it's important to think of all of these types of risk when we're looking at assessing and then managing risk proactively for your business. So when we are assessing risk, it is helpful to make a list, um, take that list of the types of risk and try to think about everything that could happen. This can be a depressing activity, but what could happen in your situation for each of those types of risks? So what risks or hazard are possible? And then think about for each one, how likely or probable are each of those risks to create consequences or losses for you? Is it really likely, or is it this is a risk, but the chance of this happening is very unlikely, right? And then we can think about what is the severity of the consequences of those losses. If this happens, what what is likely to be the outcome? Are we likely to lose our farm? Are we likely to, have to pay an insurance deductible? Are we likely to have to, work through with the media? Are we likely to, what are we likely to do? And how bad is it going to be for the farm if that happens? Okay. So it's a really good exercise to take and do one of these chilly, cold, wet winter evenings. From there, we want to think about how are we going to use this list of risks and how likely they're to happen and how severe the consequences, and then apply um, risk management strategies. So when we think about risk management, there are four major ways or methods or categories of ways that we can manage that with risk. We can reduce risk by implementing um, safety procedures, right? How are we going to do our best to keep people safe? We're going to reduce risk there. We're going to, we'll talk about some lost child suggestions. How are we going to reduce the risk of children getting lost or making that a really stressful situation? We're going to follow the regulations. So we're going to reduce the risk of getting in trouble with the regulators. All right. Another way we can do, we're going to go to the other corner, is to avoid risk. And there might be some activities that you decide, I'm just not comfortable having that on the farm because the risk is so likely and the consequences are so severe that I'm just going to take that off the table. And we're not going to, maybe for you, it's have bonfires because fires really, bonfires can be a great attraction, but they can also be really dangerous, right? People can get burned. You can set the whole farm on fire. We've been to operations, Kacey, where we've learned that a car in a parking lot caught on fire and it burned a bunch of cars in the parking lot. So we might want to avoid bonfires, or maybe we're not going to do a zip line or whatever it is that you're just not going to do. And so we take that risk off the table. Another way to manage risk is to transfer that risk. And the biggest way we do that is by buying insurance. So when we buy insurance, we're buying in to a pool of a whole bunch of people that are buying into this insurance. So we're transferring some of our risk to everybody else who is buying insurance through that company. And another way we can do it is accept it. We might just consciously accept that, look, we're doing everything we can to reduce and transfer, and we're not going to avoid doing this. So we understand now the likelihood that this is going to happen and the consequence that could happen. And we're going to prepare a little bit. We're going to have an emergency fund set aside. We're going to have a plan in place to if something happens, we know what to do, and we're going to handle it the very best way we can to get the best outcome for everybody involved. So those are the main large categories of risk management. And we'll talk about some of the specifics of that going through. A lot of times we have questions about people being on the farm and getting hurt, and a lot of that, the risk that you mentioned, being concerned about involved that, or things people do when they're on their farm, whether they're supposed to be there or not. So there are three groups of people in general that will be on your farm. So we can talk about each of these groups and talk about your legal obligations to this group based on whether they have permission to be there and whether they're doing business or paying to be there or not. So the first group is a trespasser. You may have issues with this, even if you're a business, of people on your farm without, when you're not open. Certainly, we have some land and we have some folks who like to come hunt on it without permission sometimes, even though it's posted. So a trespasser is somebody who come on your property without permission. And there's two types of that. There's an unknown trespasser, when we don't know that somebody is coming out there. And for that person, you really don't have any duty of care. They're not supposed to be there, and you don't know who they are or that they're there. So you have really no duty of care for them. Now, if you know that somebody is a trespasser on that farm, you have a duty to do no harm. So we're not going to set a booby trap for them. You may not put out the welcome mat, but you're not gonna try to hurt them, right? Or to cause them harm in any way. The next group is a licensee, and these are people who come with permission. This might be a social group. You're having a get together, a kids play date, or dinner with some folks over at your farm. And your duty to those folks are to do no harm and warn them of hidden dangers, like be careful that step is loose, or there's a hole in the yard right there that I didn't get to fill in yet. So we have a duty to do no harm and to let them know of hidden dangers. Now, our customers that come to an agritourism enterprise are invitees. They are people with a business purpose, or that pay a fee on the farm. So this could even be the HVAC company representative that's coming, to the farm. So in this case, when people are invitees, you have a duty to use ordinary care to keep premises reasonably safe. So this is a higher level of duty, right? We've got to do our best to keep those premises reasonably safe and to warn them of dangers. So that is a higher level of whether we have just social engagement folks there or people coming on the property without permission there. When we have liability, that duty to take reasonable measures or do care, we want to make sure that we're working to provide a safe environment for customers and employees on agritourism operations. It's important to follow applicable public health guidance at a very minimum, right? So this might apply to your food service establishments. This would apply to areas where guests are interacting with animals. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Or if there's other places where you have restrooms, people need to be able to wash their hands, that sort of thing. It's very important to adhere to regulations. If you don't adhere to the regulations, for example, with an amusement device, and something happens where there's an injury, you're probably going to be in more hot water than if you were following all the regulations and doing safety inspections and other things. Then it's still going to be hot in the frying pan, but hopefully it won't burn you up. Develop written plans proactively ahead of time while you can think clearly and while you can gather information from resources. Share those with folks through training of employees, and communication with your emergency responders, and keep and maintain records of how you implement those plans and any incidents that take place. So this is going to take some effort, but it is very, very worthwhile. We're going to dive a little deeper now into some example legal risk management strategies. There are a plethora of risk management strategies that you can use. We're going to focus in on some that may become most to mind for a variety of operations. Now, you're going to to assess your specific risks for your situation, your target audience, the services and products and experiences you're going to provide. And your list of risk management strategies may vary from this, depending upon that. And then there'll be other strategies for some of the other risks. We're focusing in on just the legal risk management strategies in this presentation. But we don't want to forget those other risks as well. We may have thrown some marketing in here as well, but mostly legal risk management strategies. One way you can manage risk is to thoughtfully choose a business structure. There are a few business structures that protect personal assets from business liabilities when they are implemented correctly. Okay, so, and that means following through and keeping paperwork, financials separate all the way through. This is an important decision, and it should include your attorney, your accountant, because there's other implications of choosing a business structure besides protecting your personal assets. There's taxation, there's business transfer, and some other aspects. But if we're talking about risk management, the business structures that help protect personal assets are an LLC, a limited liability company, a corporation, a cooperative, or nonprofit, which are those two are not as likely. So some sort of corporation or a limited liability company are business structures that could help protect personal assets. There is a nice publication on business structures for farmers available for a free download on the SARE website. And we will send that link out via email to you all so that you can look into that more if you'd like. Safety and emergency preparedness should be a vital component of your risk management strategies. There can be all sorts of risks here, injuries or other medical emergencies. Somebody may have a heart attack, an allergic reaction, a stroke, an anxiety attack, all sorts of injuries or medical emergencies. We could have a weather event or natural disaster come through. There could be fire. There could be an equipment failure. If you're taking a wagon ride or a barrel train ride, for example, there could be a traffic accident in your parking lot on the road front. You could have a person that is separated from their group, a child that gets separated from their field trip group, a child that gets separated from their adult, or an adult that it gets separated and can't find their group. You could have an aggressive guest or a guest that may have some drugs or alcohol in their system that aren't acting appropriately. And heaven forbid, you could have an active shooter situation. And hopefully, some of these, may be less likely to occur. But if they did, it could be a really bad thing for your guests, and for your employees, and for your business as well. But we want to think mostly about the people here, right? So just understanding what could happen will help us to deal with those best. So, if we're talking about risk management in these areas, we want to assess your situation, develop plans on how you can reduce this risk and how you can um, stop things from happening, and then how you can react if something does happen. Really work to be proactive to prevent any safety or emergency situation that's within your control. It's vitally important to train your employees. We'll talk more about training in a minute. Communicate with first responders, making sure that the fire department and ambulance service and the police or sheriff's department that is working with your farm knows that you're there, that you're having people on the farm, how many people, the kinds of people, where they need to come if there is an issue, and how to navigate through the farm. So really working with them can save time, and that can save a life, to be honest. Make sure you have a way to record the details of incidents that may happen. If somebody's injured, there you should have a form or an online form or something where whoever's involved is noted, what happened from their perspective is noted, and all the details that your insurance company or an attorney may need, or even a doctor may need, right? And prepare to communicate when there is an issue. You might need to communicate with your insurance representative. You may need to communicate with regulators. For example, with those amusement device things, if there's an incident on your slide or your barrel train or zip line, you have 24 hours to report that. Prepare to communicate with the media and with your followers on social media. And then continually evaluate and improve. Monica, I am so sorry you had a fire, but if they know where you are, they can get there faster, and they'll know that it's important, and take care of you the very best that they can. Having that good relationship is important, right? There are some resources available from and they come back to buy chicken. I love that even more. That's fabulous. That's fabulous. So there is a website called safeagritourism.org that has a lot of information about agritourism safety, some check sheets, some walkthrough examples, and some signs that you can use. And our friends at the Ohio State University Extension have created an emergency preparedness plan workbook that will help you develop a plan, and write that out so that you can use that in training and implement it if something arises. So those are some helpful options. Now, I know Tim, I think it was really interested in the Tennessee Agritourism Liability Law last time, and we're definitely going to cover that today. So, the Tennessee Agritourism Liability Law is in place in the state of Tennessee. If you're from another state, a lot of other states have similar laws, so be sure to check out the exact language in those laws and their requirements, but many of them are similar. So this law limits the liability of agritourism professionals for injuries to participants caused by inherent risks of agriculture. So, you know, farms have uneven ground. And so this law would, for example, likely help protect a farmer meeting this agritourism professional definition from somebody tripping on this uneven ground, and breaking their ankle, so to speak. So these are dangers, conditions, or hazards that are an integral part of an agritourism activity and beyond your control. Now, if you knew there was a big hole out there and you didn't fix it, and somebody had been hurt on it last week, maybe that would be a different story. So this law does not erase all duty of care from you. All right. So to whom does the Tennessee Agritourism Liability Law apply? Well, that agritourism professionals, it is key meeting that definition. So that these are folks who are providing agritourism activities as defined in the law. We'll get to that in a moment. Farms or ranches that are eligible for green belt certification. So this is something I've kind of been on a soapbox for for a while. You've got to be eligible for green belt certification in order for this law to cover you or help protect you. And unique to Tennessee's law, this law also applies to animal exhibitions at agricultural fairs. So, the definition of agritourism activity in the law, and I want to be careful to explain that this definition applies only to the Tennessee Agritourism Liability Law. It does not apply to the definition of agriculture or create a definition of agriculture beyond this liability law. So, for the purpose of this law, an agritourism activity is any activity carried out on a farm or ranch eligible for Greenbelt classification that allows members of the general public for recreational, entertainment, or educational purposes to view or enjoy rural activities, including farming, ranching, historic, cultural, or harvest your own activities or natural activities and attractions. An activity is an agritourism activity whether or not a participant provides compensation in money or other valuable compensation to participate in the activity. All right. So this gives us an idea of the broad definition that's included in the law. The law also is very specific that these operations are eligible for greenbelt classification. So if you're not eligible for greenbelt, this law as it is now does not provide protection. So greenbelt refers to the property tax assessment classification that is based on use value, which be regular agriculture value, rather than fair market value, which could be a commercial value. To be eligible for Greenbelt, you have to have a minimum acreage and sales requirements typically. So you've got to have 15 acres in a tract, and that can apply for Greenbelt. If you have 15 acres in one tract, and a 10-acre tract in another place, but the same owner with the same owner, then that 10-acre tract may also be eligible for Greenbelt. You've also got to show an average annual gross farm income of $1,500 over 3 years. And there's some exception if the land has been farmed for at least 25 years. This is all done through the state comptroller's office and the state board of equalization. So I've got a link that we'll send you later that, and it's on the slide as well if you want to take a picture. So you can check more about Greenbelt. All right, I'm going to try to check here. So yes, if I have 9 acres, then in a tract of land, and it's not, then it would not be eligible for greenbelt classification, is my understanding, because it's not a 15-acre tract nor a 10-acre tract, and therefore it would not be eligible for protection under this Tennessee agritourism liability law. When this was put into place back in, I think, 2009, there was some resistance to the law going into place by trial lawyers and others. And this was kind of a concession that was made so that the lawyers were, happy that these would really be farms and not just somebody wanting to have liability protection, but not really a farm. I think this would be a great issue to revisit. There's not any law uh, liability protection wise for farms less than this acreage. So um, that is something that I hope will maybe change in the future, but it is what it is now. There are some limitations. It's not a free for all. You are not, automatically a magic wand, can't get sued or can't, do anything you want. So there are some limitations under the law. You are still liable in five specific situations. You or an employee acts with reckless disregard or without concern for the safety of the participant. You or an employee knows about or should have known about a dangerous condition and didn't share the information with participants. You fail to train, improperly train, or inadequately train your employees. You or your employee are intentionally injures a participant or commits an act or a mission that is considered, a willful or wanton misconduct, gross negligent, or criminal conduct. So you've still got to provide your duty of care here. Also, to be eligible under the law, and I've got three ones there. That should be 1, 2, 3. Gotta love the technology and operator error. You've got to be an agritourism professional providing an agritourism activity, and post and maintain warning signs in clearly visible location at the entrance and at every agritourism activity. Signs must be printed in black letters at least 1 inch tall. And then you need to include these warnings in any contracts you might have. Some people include them as part of online ticketing. Definitely, if you're renting anything out or having vendors come on, you want to make sure those warning language is included. There is an extension publication about this law that's available online, and we'll send the link to that as well. And there are warning signs available. Vera Ann Myers has been in agritourism a long time, and she works with a sign maker to get the signs, metal signs developed to the best of their ability to the specifications of the law, and offers those basically at her cost, I believe, for getting those as a way to serve the industry. And some of those signs are available through the Tennessee Agritourism Association as well, if you're involved in that association, which I would highly encourage from educational and networking standpoint. If you have cattle or horses or other equine on your farm, there are also in Tennessee bovine liability laws and an equine liability law that are similar to the agritourism liability law. So there's warning signs and things associated with that. So if you have cattle or horses or other equine, check into those, and then also get those warning signs and follow the rules there. I just want to mention those rather than dive deep there. Some folks still ask about liability statements or waivers. These I've heard people say are maybe an additional level of a layer to the cake, right? A layer to your risk management strategies. The validity of these and the effectiveness of these really depends on state and case law, how those have used. One way that it does help, it documents that the customer has been warned of the use, warned of the risk associated with the farm. It still does not make it okay for you to be grossly negligent anyway, and those waivers may not hold up in court because, people may have said, well, I didn't read it and I just, I had to sign it to come in. The language used and that sort of thing may not hold up in court. So if you're interested in doing this for your farm, discuss it with your attorney and see if they think it may be effective, and then work to make it the best that you can and easy for your customers to use. Liability insurance is a big one. even with the Tennessee agritourism liability law or the liability law in your state, even if you are deemed in your mind one of those agritourism professionals and you are have green belt, that law does not prevent people from suing you. And it does not mean that they won't win, right? So liability insurance is still a, a necessary protection for your farm. It's really important, talk about some light reading, to read your policy so you understand what it covers and what it does not. Many farm and commercial liability policies do not cover exposure to communicable disease, bacteria, virus, parasite, or other organisms. So this might be COVID-19 or hepatitis or tuberculosis or measles. Um, this could include some other things as well. Um, some policies do and some don't include physical injury caused by bacteria, parasite, or other organism in a food product intended for consuming human consumption. This would be like more like a product liability coverage for E. coli, salmonella, listeria, and other foodborne illnesses. If you have animals on your farm where customers will be interacting with animals, even through a fence, walking anywhere animals may have been, you will want to make sure your coverage includes zoonotic diseases. Okay. And so you want to make sure and don't just ask and get an answer. Have them show you in the policy and read the wording there. So that you know what is in the policy. There are a lot of places that might offer agritourism policies. And there are some places that are very specific about not covering certain types of attractions. So my recommendation is to start with where you have your insurance, where you have a relationship and you already do business, and see what's available. If you want to shop around or they don't have what you need, here's a list of companies that we are aware of that sometimes offer agritourism operations. Again, it depends, insurance, it depends a little bit on the specific needs and, attractions that you have. So these are some places that you can check it out. There, again, we're not endorsing any of these. It is just information for you. When you get into beyond farming or changing what you're doing, you also need to revisit some other insurance that you have and make sure the agents know that you're doing something different or additional, because that may change the coverage that you need for your property or your equipment or your farm truck or whatever else. Okay, you also, when you start hiring employees, there's workers' compensation that may need to have. You might need product liability if you're selling products. If you're offering any alcohol for events, you might look into a liquor liability rider. If you're offering special events, you want to look into special event insurance that maybe the people you are renting to can purchase and list you and your farm as a named insured in case the wedding party gets out of hand and does damage some property, for an example. So take some time to evaluate your insurance needs. When you're working with insurance, find an agent who understands your business and industry, discuss your particular situation in detail, and verify your coverage and needs. Review that coverage annually or anytime you add or change products and services, and read and understand your policies. Lost children can be really, I'm going to go a little faster because I am taking a lot of time with this, but it's good stuff. So lost child procedures. It is really scary when a child is lost. So try to take some proactive measures. If there's pre-visit information you can share with parents on your website or through your online ticketing, If you do wristbands, maybe ask parents to write their name and phone number if the child doesn't know it on their wristband. Um, I went one place that had a photo station with some information at their entrance that said, please take a picture of your children here so we know what they're wearing and everything to help us identify if they get lost. Some places have a dedicated reunification location um, that they promote to folks. Make sure your staff are identifiable so people can find somebody to get help quickly. Ability to communicate with your staff so you can immediately start looking, shutting down exits, doing whatever is necessary to find that lost child and prevent them from leaving if that's something that's needed, and make sure you're training your staff and practicing that protocol. Biosecurity and animal encounters is very important. We want to keep your animals safe, but we also definitely want to keep the humans safe that are interacting with them. So there's things that we need to do the best we can with to make sure our animals are healthy and kept clean. One thing we've learned through some recent events is that an animal can be shedding E. coli and not appear sick in any way. Right, so this might look like a perfectly healthy animal, and they may be shedding E. coli, for example, and there's no way to know it, and you're not able to check, test for E. coli shedding every day. But if an animal is sick, we definitely want to keep them away, and we want to keep the animal areas clean. We don't want the best that we can, so folks aren't walking through things. Some same animal for people. If people are sick, we want them to stay home, visitors and employees. We want to manage visitor movement in and out of areas so that they can wash their hands when they leave. Um, we don't want folks to take their stroller through the petting zoo area because they're getting feces and other things on the tires, for example. Or let's maybe leave the baby's pacifier in the stroller until we can wash hands. Folks who are most at risk: elderly, immune compromised, pregnant women, children under 3, some added protection for. So it's important to really communicate with visitors that there are germs here and there are risks that you could get really sick from this. And folks who are at most risk maybe should avoid this activity. And if you choose not to avoid it, everybody needs to wash their hands and clean their shoes and not track through the house. So somebody crawling on the floor, introduces that to their mouth. And then communicate clearly in multiple ways the risks. There is a webinar recording of some folks from the Tennessee Department of Health talking about some of their suggestions on how to handle animal encounters to reduce risk. They also have a website with resources with more of that information. If you have outside vendors or contractors coming in, ensure that they have the permits and licenses they need and are following the regulations. You may ask for a proof of liability insurance. And you could even ask them to name your operation or yourselves or both as additional insured on that policy to help in managing your risk. We've mentioned employee training several times, and this can be really helpful to identify the information and skills your employee need in order to help reduce and manage your risk. Develop an employee handbook with written information, policies, procedures, and expectations related to those protocols. Um, Put together effective training and make sure you're doing that consistently with returning and also new employees. Try to find a way to periodically test their understanding and implementation of that, and then keep records so that you can show that you are doing your all that you can to keep people safe and healthy on the farm. Unfortunately, security has become an issue at agritourism operations. Um, making sure that people are safe on the farm, theft from customers and employees, vandalism, trespassing, cybersecurity are all security issues. And if you have had another security issue, please put it down. We've had staff pocketing money at the admissions booth. We've had a customer try to sneak a baby goat out under their coat. Certainly, all sorts of pumpkins and fruit thefts as well. So, putting procedures in place to reduce that risk. Some people are going cashless or making it really hard to put $10 in your pocket. Some odd numbers, for example, cameras, lighting, alarms, and security staff in some instances as well. If you have a website, which you should at some point, make sure that you're in charge of registering and maintaining that domain name. You don't want somebody else, an employee that may shirk or a contractor even to have control over your domain name if you're working on getting that out. Make sure you pay that fee and renew it on time so you maintain control of your website and somebody doesn't steal it and put not so appetizing things up there that would hurt your business. You can apply for trademarks for your business name, signature product, or experience names if you would like, both at the state level and the federal level. I've included some information here and we'll send the link here. It's easier to do within the state and you can get protection for 5 years for $20 per fee class. And you might want to put your into multiple fee classes, but that's not really cost prohibitive there. The federal process is a lot more daunting and difficult, and they even recommend working with a federal trademark attorney to do that. Finally, it's important to have a plan for crisis communication. If you're in business for long enough, have enough people on your farm, it's likely that something bad, even terrible, tragic, can happen. And having a plan together and information together to deal with that can be very helpful because if something happens, you're not going to be able to think, right? So develop a plan, develop a draft press release that you can adapt to the situation. Make sure you have a contact information for your attorney, insurance company, friendly media, and identify who's going to be the best person in a situation, in a crisis, to be the spokesperson for your farm. Breathe and stay calm. Find your plan if something happens. Let the spokesperson know what is going on. Inform the media that you'll be issuing a press release on a certain date and time, and that will give you some breathing room for you to edit that draft press release, work with your attorney, insurance rep, any trusted advisors for that, and then issue that. There's some more tips on this, like don't give live interviews, reach out to your friendly media, ask for interview questions ahead of time, and work that angle. That can be very helpful. If you are a member of NAFMA, when they even have somebody you can reach out to, a PR person, in the incidence of a crisis, and they will help you work through it. We may talk about NAFMA in a little bit. So we need to remember through risk management to proactively assess and manage risk, communicate clearly any plans, protocols, expectations, what you're offering, with employees, with regulators, with your attorney, insurance agent, everybody on your team, and continually track, evaluate your risks and your management strategies and work to improve that. We don't want you to be in hot water. Sometimes things go wrong. We want you to be able to pick up from there and move on with the least amount of consequence and negative impact on your business. If there are any questions, please put those in the chat and I will try to answer those in the chat and or hang around after and answer those. Um, at the moment, I'm going to turn it over to Kacey Troup and let her tell us about some of the fabulous resources she has available and other folks in government have available for you as well. So, Kacey, welcome. You've got the floor.
Thank you. Let me see if I can get my presentation pulled up here for y'all. Somehow when I opened it, it opened on the last slide. So I'm trying to get back to slide number 1. Okay, are you seeing my PowerPoint correctly?
I am now. Yes, looks great.
Awesome, thank you. Well, thanks for having me today. I hope y'all have enjoyed this webinar series so far. I'm excited to join y'all. Like Megan said, I am Kacey Troup. I am a business consultant with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture in our Business Development Division. So I work to support different sectors of agriculture. My area that I work with is agritourism. I also work with beginning farmers, farmer veterans, so anyone transitioning out of military service who wants to get into agriculture, as well as wineries and vineyards across our state. So kind of jump into my presentation here. I'm going to be covering a lot of information in a short amount of time. My contact information was on the first slide. It's also going to be on the last slide. So feel free to reach out to me if you have additional questions after the session, and we'll do our best to answer any and all questions y'all have while we're together today. So we're going to do a brief overview of the department as a whole. If you are not familiar with all of the things the Department of Ag offers, we could do an entire hour-and-a-half session just on Department of Ag in general. So we are only going to be focusing on business development specifically at the department, but I do want to give you just kind of an idea of where to reach out to other departments for things that you may have questions about. And then we're going to dive deeper into the marketing and grant funding that we offer in business development, and then a brief overview of things from tourist development, transportation revenue, and then a quick plug for some of the producer associations that we have related to agritourism. Okay, so Department of Agriculture, our mission is to serve, support, and promote agriculture and forestry. Agriculture is the #1 industry in Tennessee, and we are working to keep it that way. But tourism is a close second. So agritourism is a good fit in Tennessee as it's our top 2 industries, and it combines both of those together. Our department is made up of 5 major divisions. That's administration, forestry, consumer industry services. That's going to be our regulatory arm of the department, animal health, and business development. Administration handles all of kind of the administration part of our functioning. So our budget, our HR, our legal department, our public affairs goes through this division. There are some other commodity related grants that are handled through here. Our ag crime unit is housed in administration. Many folks don't know that we have our own law enforcement through the ag crime unit, so they can help with different cases that may happen on farms and related to farming, whether that be crops or livestock. It has our land and water stewardship, and then our ag museum is housed within this division as well. Forestry, just what you think, helps with forestry landowner assistance, wildfire prevention, and manages our state forests. Consumer industry services, I'll stay here just a little bit longer because you could potentially need to interact with these folks based off of what products you're selling or services you're offering. So they are, like I said, the regulatory arm of TDA. They have all of our food and dairy inspectors, our plant inspectors. This is where you get licenses to be able to do pesticides applications, licenses to be able to sell plants. Weights and measures is also in here as well. So a good example for why you might interact with weights and measures. If you're selling any of your products by the weight and you're using a scale for that, they're a good group to be connected with to check your scale for correctness. They'll be able to calibrate it and let you know that you are weighing items correctly. So if you're someone who sells pumpkins by the weight, you can know that your scale is weighing those pumpkins correctly, so then you are charging your customer correctly. It also has our laboratory services as well in this division. So if you have questions on how to connect with any of those different things, or if something sparks your attention from the previous session when Megan talked about regulatory needs and you don't know who to reach out to in CIS, you can always start with me and I can help let you know, yep, you should reach out to them and this is who you would want to talk with. And then we have animal health. This is where our state vet's office is, and they do a lot to monitor and protect livestock across our state, diagnose diseases, and work to help prevent the spread of diseases that may come into Tennessee. So if you want to reach out to any of these divisions, this is their phone numbers here. You can always call our main number, which is 615-837-5103, or email tn.agriculture@tn.gov, and they'll direct you to the right person, or you can also reach out to myself as well. Okay, we're going to go into business development now, and since that is the area that I work in, we kind of have three main pillars of what we do in business development. We have our business consultants. We are very industry focused. We are working one-on-one with farmers and landowners to help them expand or start their business. We have our Pick Tennessee Products program, which we're going to talk about, is housed within this pillar, and all of our grants are in here. Well, not all, but most of our grants, besides the Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program, are housed within our business consultant group. Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program is a cost share program that has its own team to help manage that program. We're going to dive into this one pretty good in just a couple of slides, but it is aiming to make long-term investments into Tennessee farms to help you all maximize your profits and adapt and bring diversity to your operations. And then we won't talk about this pillar as much, but we have our market news reporters, and they are out at all of the livestock sales, grading livestock, and helping to provide reports on prices and just help farmers keep an eye on what the market is doing. This is our team. Some folks you might want to interact with that kind of overlap with agritourism, of course, myself, but Pick Tennessee Products, which we're going to talk about. Sarah Emery Botwinick is the director of Pick Tennessee Products. And then Mike Brown is our food manufacturing guy. So he does a lot of work with people doing value-added products and food products. A lot of agritourism folks are also doing horticulture, or they might be a row crop operation. So Mary Gamble would be the consultant to help you on the row crop and horticulture side. We also have a lot of cattle producers and other livestock producers that are adding agritourism into their operations. So Jacob Tipton is going to be our livestock guy. Rachel Sullivan handles all of the grants outside of Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program. And then Jan Keyser is our Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program coordinator. Starting with Pick Tennessee Products, this is our free marketing platform that helps connect consumers to producers. We have over 3,000 listings on it currently, and it's basically all things local in Tennessee. This is a screenshot of the homepage on our website when folks visit picktnproducts.org, which will be getting an update soon, which is very exciting. They can search for pretty much any agriculture, food product, or on-farm experience that they want to throughout Tennessee. So agritourism is housed under our fun and education section of the website. And I'm going to see if this will switch over to the website for y'all. Is it still showing? Is it showing the website now, Megan?
Yes, looks great.
Perfect. Okay. So if someone were to come to Pick TN Products and they were to click on Fun and Education, these are all the different categories that are listed in this section. You can be listed in multiple. You don't have to pick just one. And when they click on, say, corn mazes and hay mazes, it'll divide it up by east, middle, and west, and then have them listed by county here in a map. So each of the dots is a different farm represented here. So really cool way for consumers to locate farms that have either the product or experience that they are looking for. Let's see if we can. All right, am I back to my PowerPoint now? Hope so.
Yes.
You're on your PowerPoint. All right, so to apply for Pictian products, just go to that same consumer-facing webpage that was on the previous slide and look for Apply Now, and it'll take you to the application. It's quick to fill out, only takes about 5 to 7 minutes, and then it will be assigned to a consultant based off of the category you select. So if you select agritourism, Sarah's going to send it to me to review. I do my best to review those within a couple of days, at most a week, and get y'all listed on the website. If you ever need to update your listing, you're not going to do it through this portal. At the moment, we're hoping that that's going to be a new addition with the upgrades to the website, that you'll be able to log back in and make your own changes. But for now, you can either email myself, or you can email pic.tn@tn.gov with any changes you need made to your listing if you're already on there. I like to give a quick rundown of just the numbers that we have listed on the website for amount of agritourism operations we have, pick your owns, bee fishing, Christmas trees, and then some equine related things as well. And you can see the fun and education category includes all of these items down here at the bottom. I also included the number of farms that are doing on-farm sales or direct-to-consumer sales here as well. This is an example of 2 different pages we have on our website right now, 2 different farms. So your landing page, when someone clicks on your farm through our website, will have the name, ownership if you would like it to be there, phone number, link to a website, email, link to social media. You can provide any photo you'd like to be put on your page. We have the ability to put seasonal hours if you like. I often recommend to folks not to put that on there, just because if your season changes, you don't operate the same hours every year or consistently throughout the year. It could be just another thing that you have to remember to go in and change. So I always just recommend people listing on here, check website or check social media, wherever it is that you keep most up to date for folks to look at. That way you're only focusing and having to remember to update one spot. You've got enough going on. You don't need to also remember to consistently update this page as well. We have the ability to list the type of products or activities that you have on your farm. And then we also have the ability to add some extra logos. So you'll see here on the left, this is the Homegrown by Heroes logo. That is for military service members and veterans who are farming. They have the option to use this logo. We can add an organic logo if your farm is organic. We can add the Tennessee Milk logo, and we have some other options as well. Oh. Again, I'm not able to see the chat. Let me see if I open this back up. Make sure there's no questions about this before we go into TAP.
We're good so far.
Okay, awesome. All right, so diving into Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program, this is the cost share program and funding opportunity that is most applicable to agritourism operations through our department. So it has 2 main applications. Application A, I like to think of it as more traditional production agriculture. So that's going to be row crop projects, livestock projects, large scale poultry growers and swine producers are going to fall into that. Agritourism is going to be. Love you too much. Bye. Agritourism is going to go into producer diversification, which sometimes it's called application B, but we're really trying to get everyone to start calling it producer diversification for clarification. And we're going to talk more about that on the next slides. But the application period for all of these programs is October 1st through 7th every year. And our website is typically updated with any program changes or information by Labor Day. So you can still go on the website now and look through it all. Just know that after Labor Day, there won't be any changes made to it. So the goal of producer diversification is to encourage agriculture producers to expand or improve their farm through product diversification. Within this, there are 6 sectors that someone can apply for: agritourism, fruit, vegetable, honeybee, horticulture, organic, and value-added products. It's a 50% cost share program up to $12,000. That's what it's been the last couple of years. But like I mentioned, if that were going to change, we would know by Labor Day if that dollar amount is going to change. So you can, it's one application per farm, but you can apply in, yes, well, correct, 2026. Sorry, I got ahead of myself and thought we were already going to 2027, but it is always October 1st through 7th every year, no matter what year it is. So it would be October 1st through 7th, 2026. It's one application per farm, but you can split that between, say, your Christmas tree farm, and you have some items you want to apply for that are agritourism related, and you have some items you want to apply for that are tree production related that would fall under horticulture. So you could split that between the two, but you're not able to get $12,000 in both sectors, if that makes sense. Oh, focusing specifically on agritourism and not the other 5 areas. This program focuses on-farm experience related to production agriculture, and education is going to have the highest preference. So farm education, people who are doing tours of production agriculture, on-farm activities, pick your owns, farm fun, corn mazes and hay rides, and then purchases and retail sales as well. There is a priority given to long-term projects that are education focused. So what I mean by that is the review committee is going to be looking for projects that are related to an educational purpose on the farm over an entertainment purpose on the farm. So Megan had mentioned in a previous section of this webinar series about weddings and how weddings are viewed and through agritourism. So weddings would be a lower competitive item in this grant program. Someone who's applying for tables and chairs for a wedding venue is not going to be as competitive as somebody who is applying for a pavilion to house educational classes in. And then everything is subject to a 5-year verification period. Oh, these are some of the eligible items. These are not an exhaustive list. Just because you apply for something on this list doesn't mean you're guaranteed to be approved either. But these are some ideas of the more competitive items that people apply for through this grant. Hand washing stations are a big one that helps with safety and risk mitigation. Handicap accessible areas for folks to be able to access part of your farm more easily. Hayride wagons that provide safety or an educational purpose. Parking areas, educational pavilions, restroom facilities, retail structures, and signage is another thing that we see be very popular through this program, whether that be directional signage or educational signage. The next slide is going to have a long list on it, and all of this is on the website, but I did want to provide it here. These are things that are not eligible to be applied for in this grant program. Kind of the bottom line here is anything that's a reoccurring expense is not eligible, and then certain general use equipment is not eligible as well in this program. So things that are required in an application would be the online form that you'll submit through an online portal. And then it also asks you to upload a project narrative. It'll walk you through it, ask you questions about your project, your farm history. project budget and cost quotes for each of the items you're looking to purchase, and then other supporting documents, whether that be design plans or maps of the farm that show where these items are going to go. So application period, like I said, 1st through 7th each year. Here is the website for that. Anna Grace Swift works with Jan, and she handles specifically producer diversification. And you could reach her at this email here, producer.diversification@tn.gov. If you had applied last year in October and were approved, I just want to give everybody a quick reminder that reimbursement requests are August 1st. So I do want to switch over to the website again. From our TDA homepage, you'll want to look for in producer programs, producer diversification. This is going to take you to the overview of the program. And again, this is all last year's information. Not much of this is going to change, but if anything will change, it will be updated by Labor Day. So here it has the general requirements for all 6 of those sectors: agritourism, fruit, vegetable, honeybee, horticulture, organic, and value added. And please read all of this. It has the proposal worksheet here. This will be the same questions that are asked through the online application portal, so you can prep them ahead of time and be prepared when you go into to submit your application. And if you click on agritourism on this side, it will take you to agritourism specific information where it talks about who's eligible, what types of projects qualify for TAP. It has that eligible and ineligible item list here as well. So all of the information is on the website. If you ever have trouble locating where to find this at, you can reach out to me and I'll help you with that. Okay, before we move off of TAP, let's see if there's questions on that section. Yeah, you do not need to be part of Greenbelt to utilize this program. You just need to be filing a Schedule F. So I think Megan answered that education versus entertainment well for us. Okay, awesome. Let's go on to other grants.
Kacey, there is a question. Do you have to be a Tennessee resident for TAP? The farm is in Tennessee. They own the land, but they are residents of Alabama.
Yes, I do believe you have to be a Tennessee resident. Okay, so other grants that the Business Development Division offers are our Ag Enterprise Fund and our Ag Track Fund. They're essentially the same type of program. They fund the same type of projects. I just think of Ag Track as Ag Enterprise Fund on steroids because it funds larger dollar amount projects. Both are a 25% cost share. AEF is on the smaller side where you can get up to just under $500,000 as your part of the cost share. It has quarterly applications, so the next one is coming up on April 10th. And then Ag Track is the same type of projects, 25% cost share, but up to $1 million. And then the minimum total project budget has to be $2 million or higher to qualify for this. So any project that's total budget is under $2 million would go into the Ag Enterprise Fund review. Anything larger than $2 million would go into Ag Track. It has a slightly different deadline where it's March 30th. For that is the next one coming up, but it is also quarterly as well. We have a question, who's over Ag Enterprise Fund? So Rachel Sullivan on our team is the coordinator for the program. And then each of us consultants help support the businesses through application based off of what industry they fall into. So if an agritourism operation is wanting to apply, you can reach out to me. We can talk through your application and review that as you get prepped to apply. But Rachel Sullivan does handle all of the technical paperwork side of it for us. We also offer a specialty crop block grant. This is a USDA program that they allocate money to each state, and then we administer the funds given to us by USDA. AEF and Ag Track. This information is the same for both programs. It focuses on value added and processing projects that are going to benefit other producers or landowners. So projects that are benefiting only one operation typically do not come out as competitive as other. Oh, I see Rachel. Rachel is the hardest working person at the fair. She is the hardest working person ever, I think. She's all the time doing everything she needs for us, and we greatly appreciate her. So for a project that is a single operation impact, that is not going to have a large impact on other operations, they typically are not as competitive through these programs, which is why I said that for agritourism, we typically look at TAEP for those. But there's 4 project categories here. So projects that increase farm income, increase access to markets for other operations, increase capacity for other operations, or provide some sort of new innovative technology to help create efficiencies in production or reduce costs for farmers. The Specialty Crop Block Program, like I said, is a USDA funded program that we administer for the state of Tennessee. It focuses on fruits, vegetables, tree nuts, dried fruits, horticulture, and nursery crops. We typically see a lot of research projects come through this. So people who are looking at projects that will impact the industry as a whole are the most competitive through this program. We have, if you think you have a project that would fit any of these 3, we could definitely take time to dig deeper into them and see if you've got a good project for submitting one of the applications for these. Okay, any questions on TDA before we go over to tourist development? Because I have 3 minutes to get through all the other departments. Tourist development has a rural tourism section of their department. They are the ones who are putting out the TN Vacation Guide, which is their consumer-facing site. You can find that at tnvacation.com. They have a printed guide that you may see. They run the welcome centers. They used to do something called partner pages. They've switched over to partner cards. And then they also have some tourism grants as well, which are typically focused on like local governments typically apply for their grants. So this is an example of their partner card that they have on their website. Similar to what we do on Pick Tennessee Products, just not as detailed. It takes you directly to the farm's website. It has the phone number. You can put a few photos there. It'll do maps and directions. But they very similar reasons as to why I say don't over detail your Pick Tennessee Products listing is the same reason they've switched to these more simplified partner cards. That way it's not another spot you have to remember to update the information on. They have regional tourism and outreach coordinators for Middle Tennessee, East, and West. And then Rob is their special projects coordinator. He typically attends the PICTN conference that's coming up later this week and is always a great partner for farms looking to utilize tourism resources. Going into TDOT resources, TDOT offers 2 different directional signage programs. You may have noticed as you're driving along state routes, the long rectangular blue signs that has a business name, an arrow, and the number of miles off of that state route that business is located on. So they run this program. You would do this through TDOT. They do have an agritourism icon sticker that we provide them. So when an agritourism operation applies to have one of these signs, TDOT will reach out to me and say, can you send us one of those stickers to add to the sign? Eric Jackson is the coordinator at TDOT for this, and then this link will take you to all of the rules and processes for getting one of those signs.
Kacey, do you know what the costs are on that program currently?
have not looked recently on
I will try
what
to
that
look.
is.
And it used to be like the initial cost may be an option for TAEP funding, but then the annual costs were not. Is that still the same?
We have not had a lot of folks apply for that in the recent years, so I'm not sure if that's something that is still on our competitive list or not. We can check in on that for sure. The other program that they run is the logo sign program. So these are the signs that you see as you're exiting the interstate that tell you food, gas, lodging. You can also have your business's logo placed on I think they call it attractions, is how they label the sign. So same person for that, Eric Jackson, and this link will take you to where you can learn more about how to get your logo placed on one of those signs. I know there are some rules about how many months out of the year you're open and how far you're located from the interstate and all of that. But all of that will be listed on their website. Department of Revenue, we're not going to talk about this one too much. I just want to make sure everyone was aware that they do put out a tax manual for farmers, nursery operators, and timber harvesters. And Chapter 7 in the current tax guide will reference agritourism. And then finally, we've mentioned the Tennessee Agritourism Association and NAFTMA, which is the International Agritourism Association. Both great organizations to be a part of. If you are not a Tennessee farm, if you're from another state, many other states have their own associations as well. But we also welcome the Tennessee Agritourism Association also welcomes farms outside of Tennessee to be associate members of their organization and still have access to all of the great educational programming that they put on for their members. They do bus tours, sometimes annually, sometimes every other year. They do quarterly membership meetings that typically take place on a farm somewhere in Tennessee where they have educational speaker present. And then NAFTMA puts on a great conference every year. I know Megan and I attend along with several of our Tennessee farms. We always learn a lot from farms across the country and across the globe about this conference. And they do a lot of online webinar education series as well. And Megan's mentioned some other benefits of joining that organization. So I know I covered all of that really, really fast. And there's probably a lot of questions, especially about the grant stuff. So please feel free to email me, call or text my cell number, and I can answer any questions you have and help you prep for applications that you want to submit.
And I know I was encouraging folks to come to the Pick Tennessee conference early in the series. Kacey will be there, and we'll be teaching some sessions. Anna Grace Swift and Jan Keyser will be teaching twice about the TAEP program, so that'd be an opportunity to learn more about that. In particular, Rachel Sullivan will be there, probably running around doing all the things. But if you can tackle her, she can talk about some of the other grant questions, grant programs as well. So
Yes.
if you're
Our
there,
entire staff
um,
will be there at the conference. Uh, we all might not be there the whole weekend. I know I will be there the whole weekend. So will Sarah, our Pick Tennessee Products Director, and Rachel. The three of us will be there all 3 days. But at some point, all of our consultants will be present. So if you want to snag one of them and ask them a question about their area of expertise, I'll be glad to introduce you to them as well.
they're a great group. And Kacey, we always appreciate you um, and our collaboration. I apologize for running over on the time that I had expected to speak. Um, I do want to mention we have one more session on Wednesday, and I'm really excited because we have Carl Cheney from Cheney's Dairy Barn to speak, and Amy Ladd of Lucky Ladd Farms. Both some really great operations. Cheney's have just undergone a really big expansion, so I'm excited to hear from Carl about that. And we'll have an exciting opportunity that most of you haven't learned about. If you're a dairy producer, you've gotten a little sneak peek of what is going on there. But another opportunity to add on to your knowledge in March. So don't miss this one. And we'll look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. Be sure to please give us your feedback on this session and give us your attendance if you are looking for TAP educational credit on the feedback form. I'll put that link in here and appreciate you all sticking around a little bit longer today. Kacey, you did an excellent job of catching us up on time. Thank you. Um, and we'll stick around and answer some other questions as well. Thank you, Kacey, so much. And thank you, everybody, for being here.